Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. The way we look at Porsche today is very different than where we were, say, 20 years ago. You had the Porsche 911 and Porsche Boxster back in 2000, and the idea of a four-door vehicle, let alone a crossover, was pretty much out of the realm of possibility. I don't think any car enthusiast would see that coming. But then, 3 to 4 years later, you get the first ever crossover for the brand, which is the Cayenne. And then last decade, we got the Porsche Macan. Now, in my opinion, despite the fact that Cayenne came about 12 years ahead of this vehicle, it's the Macan that's been the game changer for Porsche and is one of the reasons why this brand right here has become very popular. The Porsche Macan is not only practical and family-oriented, but also relatively affordable in the lineup and actually within the crossover segment for luxury brands. And that's why I think it's worth paying extra for, because with Porsche, you're getting an experience. You're getting something special. You're getting a vehicle that has some great driving dynamics and handling. And I do think it's definitely worth the extra $12,000 to $15,000 over, say, a BMW X3, Audi Q5, or Mercedes-Benz GLC. And that's why I believe this vehicle right here has become very popular. And also at Porsche of Westwood, which is the dealership I'm at today, they can't keep these on inventory. People are buying these the minute they arrive. And I think it's really for a great reason. So in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the Porsche Macan S and see why, if you're looking for a fun and engaging crossover to drive that also brings a luxurious interior, then maybe buying a Porsche might be a great decision. Now, before I get in this review, I'd like to thank Porsche of Westwood in Westwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Porsche inventory. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. In the eyes of most consumers, luxury brands have always been held in high regard, whether it's the interior refinement or smooth and engaging driving dynamics that many manufacturers just can't offer. Porsche, on the other hand, is in a league of its own, simply due to their proud automotive heritage and performance car pedigree, and to a certain degree has a brand equity that matches Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Bentley, to name a few, because of their attention to detail. While arguments can be made that you're simply paying for the badges found up front and on the steering wheel, Porsche's craftsmanship and sports car DNA translates their family-oriented vehicles, and the Porsche Macan S is no exception. Starting off with pricing, the Macan S comes in at $60,200, and depending on how many optional packages and features you go with, you could be looking at paying between $70,000 and $78,000. Built on the same platform as its cousin, the Audi Q5, size and dimensions are very similar. However, not surprising is that the Macan does sit a bit lower by about a half inch, to give this compact crossover more of a sportier and aggressive road presence. With a ground clearance of around 7.5 inches, all-wheel drive, and the versatility and practicality that comes along with being a crossover, the Macan offers the best of both worlds. And it's not too surprising that it became the brand's bestseller practically overnight. Some of its success can also be attributed to its appearance, as in true Porsche fashion, they found a way to make owning a crossover cool and acceptable, especially if you're an enthusiast. With a front fascia derived from the bigger Cayenne, the Macan takes aggressiveness and aerodynamics to a new level, as all air intakes are functional and not just for decoration, like some rivals. The aesthetics and angles up front are still inspired by the sports cars that have defined the Porsche brand for decades, giving this crossover unique styling and a distinguishable aura that sets it apart from other performance SUVs on the market. Of course, LED headlights will come standard, and for better illumination at night, our model has the dynamic LED lights to provide better vision on dimly lit roads. Moving over to the side profile, our model is sitting on the optional 20-inch color matching wheels for an additional $3,140 to give this Macan a low profile look. It's from this angle where you can see more of a coupe-like C-pillar design to insinuate a sporty essence. However, this will affect cargo space, which we'll discuss later on in this review. You get body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators, and available is blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, one of the distinct differences between the base and S models is the quad exhaust outlets that gives the Macan a menacing presence from the rear. But adding some classy styling is the optional transparent LED taillights to go with Porsche's signature 4-point LED turn signals. Despite this car enthusiast brand quickly embracing crossovers into their lineup, what many can appreciate is that the overall design is still traditional, especially with the performance car-like body lines that makes the Macan look sleek and streamlined from all angles. Under the hood, the Macan S is powered by a 3-liter turbocharged V6 engine that puts out 348 horsepower and 352 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 7-speed automatic transmission. Giving drivers some excitement behind the wheel, the S can go from 0 to 60 in right around 5 seconds. But if you're looking for a little more punch, upgrading to the GTS might fulfill your cravings for speed. As mentioned earlier, all-wheel drive does come standard, making the Macan a great year-round vehicle and daily driver, while also still being sporty enough where purchasing a second car might not be necessary. For fuel economy, you can expect to receive right around 18 miles per gallon in the city and 24 miles per gallon on the highway. Inside, we're greeted by a two-tone black and Mojave beige interior for this model. And with the Premium Package Plus being equipped on this Macan S, we have the optional 14-way power-adjustable heated and ventilated seats with 3-position memory for both the driver and passenger. This package also includes a panoramic moonroof, which will bring in additional light to the cabin, and the upgraded Bose surround sound system that will amplify the audio of your favorite music. In front of you, a traditional gauge cluster layout provides retro styling, mixed with technology as a digital information display can be found on the right. By using the buttons mounted on the steering wheel, you can scroll through a variety of information, such as your navigation system, tire pressure monitoring, and fuel consumption. While the Macan is due for a refresh, the old school look is certainly welcomed in an era where technology now dominates the interiors of new vehicles. Moving over to the infotainment system, coming standard will be a 10.9-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and onboard navigation. Despite the claim that there's part sharing with Volkswagen and Audi products, the user interface is definitely one of the strong points for this family of brands, as resolution and quality is without question one of the best on the market. While this infotainment system is very in-depth and requires a few minutes to get fully acclimated with it, user-friendliness and the ability to access different menus quickly and conveniently with the quick access buttons found below the screen is going to allow you to use this head unit while driving. Also part of the Premium Package Plus, you'll get surround view for added safety and visibility, giving you a top view, side view, and panoramic front and rear cameras with trajectory, making it impossible to get yourself into trouble when parking this Macan. However, one of the top reasons why this crossover is still special and unique is due to the fighter jet cockpit feel for the center console, as button layout for the dual zone climate control, heated and ventilated seats, and drive mode selector are unrivaled in this market. The Macan is the last of its kind, as Porsche has moved on to a more digital and touch-sensitive setup that aesthetically may look more modern but lacks the cool factor that makes these interiors desirable and memorable. The way in which the center console is designed passengers can feel a sense of control when it comes to their comfort level, rather than relying solely on the driver, and it's that attention to detail that truly sets Porsche apart from other luxury brands. To round out the front seating area, for the center storage compartment, you'll find enough room for smaller items, to go along with 2 USB-C inputs. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and I adjusted the seat further back. It's also on a recline, and I actually have a few inches of room of legroom to work with here. Now obviously, I am 5'5", so I'm the tallest person out there, but I do have to say, the Porsche Macan is very deceptive. It looks small, but when it comes to legroom, you have a lot more than you think. Now, also another thing too that I want to point out here, just like we saw with the Cayenne, the second row seats sit a little lower, so it maximizes headroom. Even with the panoramic sunroof, you still have a good amount of headroom to work with here. Now, obviously, that's not going to be an issue for me at my height, but I do think people are maybe 5'9", 5'10", could sit back here very comfortably. I think even in this position with the front seat being pushed back a bit, also on a recline, I do think people are maybe 5'9", 5'10", could sit back here overall pretty comfortably. Now, just like I talked about a year, maybe 2 years ago, for the center seat, it is going to be very difficult to sit a third person back here practically on a daily basis. Now, there are some good placements for my feet, but the center hump is very aggressive, which that does play a role in legroom, and also I think even because the Macan is more of a smaller vehicle, you don't have as much shoulder room. So I do believe that if you do need need enough room for that third person in the back, then maybe going with the Cayenne would be a better decision, because the Macan is still, at the end of the day, a compact crossover, and usually for most crossovers in this segment, squeezing a third person isn't the most conducive for most people. So definitely keep that in mind. I do think smaller people would work, but even for average size adults, I just don't think it'll be practical to fit a third person back here. And then on the driver's side, the seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom to work with here. So like I said, when it comes to at least the outboard seats, there is a bit of deception, because I think you walk in thinking, you know, it might be a bit compact, might be a bit tight, but actually in reality, it's not that bad. Now, again, of course, keep in mind, I am 5'5", not the tallest person, but I do think, though, the Macan is definitely going to provide enough space where you can be very comfortable back here for sure. Also back here, you will get 2 rear air vents to go along with the climate control of sorts. Now, there is no digital gauge, so you can't tell what the temperature is, but at least you can stay warm or cool depending on the time of year. You will get 2 USB-C inputs. Also keep in mind that heated outboard seats are optional, but they're not equipped on this model. And rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, you're going to receive around 17.5 cubic feet of rear cargo space. Now, that is not class leading by any means. That's really because of the Porsche Macan's design and road presence, as the roofline is traditional to the Porsche brand, as it's more sports car-like, and to give you that more enthusiast design that we love about this brand. But you are going to sacrifice a bit when it comes to initial rear cargo space. But with the second row seats folded down, that space more than double in size to 153 cubic feet. So overall, the Macan is most certainly practical. There's enough room for me where I can fit all my camera gear and head off to work. There's also plenty of room for groceries and smaller items, and also daily tasks. So I do believe if you have a smaller family, the Macan is most certainly enough. Also, on the right side of the rear cargo area, you are going to find some netting for some smaller items, such as car detailing equipment, which I would most certainly use to keep this Macan looking very nice. And then on the left side, you are going to find a 12-volt outlet. And then beneath the floor mat, you are going to have your spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your journeys or your travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And then once you're done, just press the button, and the liftgate will close automatically. All right, so let's take the Porsche Macan S out for a test drive. And let's see how this compares to the Porsche Cayenne that I reviewed a few weeks ago. Now, of course, that was a GTS. This is an S. We're not going to compare in terms of power, but rather how the vehicle handles, how it feels compared to its bigger sibling. Now, I do want to point out here that I will be in sport mode the entire time. I'm going to do a very quick loop and just get a good feel for what the Macan S has to offer, especially in this segment and price range. Yeah, my turning radius is much better than the Audi Q7 that was just in front of me, or maybe they just can't drive. But steering is actually really nice, very responsive here. And once again, there's something special about this crossover. It feels more refined, the way it rides, the way it handles, the way it drives. There's something to this. Again, it doesn't feel very computerized. It feels more raw than other competitors for sure. And I think that's why I appreciate Porsche and why so many Porsche enthusiasts love these vehicles and why they're so particular about the vehicles they own. Now, in the way it does handle, it's very darty for sure. It's not, it definitely is more maneuverable than the Cayenne GTS that I had reviewed a few weeks ago. And I do think this is really where people are correct when they say it does feel more car-like, but it still has that SUV-like tendency or that crossover-like tendency where it does feel pretty big. It definitely doesn't feel like a coupe or a small sports car, that is for sure. It puts down the power pretty well. Now, it doesn't throw you back in your seat, and it might not be, and this again has probably something to do with the fact that it has a V6 and not a V8. It doesn't feel as raw. This is more pedestrian and civilianized, but still has a nice feel to it. So, cornering. I can throw it into the corners. Very little body roll. Very nice, very nice. You can drive this vehicle on back roads, on a nice spirited drive. And let's look back to the dealership. And again, this is really why you want to buy a Porsche Macan S. Now, even though you have sportier crossovers like an X3 M40i, Audi SQ5, or a Mercedes-Benz GLC 43, there's still something sporty about this vehicle. It's still special at the end of the day. I love the pickup in this car. Now, it has 348 horsepower, 0 to 60 time around 5 seconds, similar to an Audi SQ5. So not the quickest in its segment, and of course, if you want more power, you go to GTS or Turbo. But I think from a daily driver aspect, this is most certainly enough. But if you are looking for a fun daily driver and you want to stay engaged behind the wheel on your morning and afternoon commute from work on Monday through Friday, then that's exactly what the Macan S is going to offer. I think a lot of brands right now, they're sticking more towards a computerized feel, and you see that with the technology, whether it's the infotainment system or the digital gauge clusters, whereas the Macan is still very old school in that regard, because even though you still have a little digital information display on the right, you still have analog gauges. And even when it comes to steering input, it's not as computer driven, it's not as computerized. So I definitely like that for sure. So after this test drive, my takeaway is that the Porsche Macan is definitely more maneuverable than other rivals in this segment, but I just wouldn't say it's as car-like or sports car-like when it comes to feel. Now, of course, the automatic, very smooth, and when it comes to accelerating, it's enjoyable. So I just think that overall, from a driver's perspective, the Macan is going to give you more of a natural feel. It's not going to be as numb. It's not going to be as computerized. And I think that would be my main takeaway, is that if you're looking for something that's just enjoyable overall, that's still practical, family-friendly, family-oriented, but is just a bit better and does everything better than BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz, then I'd say look at Porsche. I think you're going to be very happy with your choice as well. This car still brings a Porsche car-like feel. Now, I do think, though, that if you're looking for more of a raw feel, you're going to want to go with a Cayenne. Now, of course, the GTS is $120,000, at least that was the one I had reviewed, where this is a fraction of that cost by around $50,000, but it's a baby Cayenne, and I think that's why if you're looking for a sporty crossover that gives you a more premium luxury feel, but a great driving dynamics and great handling, then the Macan S is a great balance of both. So at the end of the day, why do you buy a Porsche Macan S over, say, a BMW X3 M40i, Mercedes-Benz GLC 43 AMG, or the cousin to the Macan S, the Audi SQ5? And I really think it just comes down to interior refinement, but also the experience that you have with the Porsche name. Now, we talk about experience with Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls-Royce. And in this price range around $75,000, you're still in the price range for a BMW or Mercedes-Benz. But Porsche gives you something extra, gives you something more. There's some passion behind the design to this interior. This passion when it comes to the driving dynamics and handling, which we just don't see anymore in the automotive industry. Everything feels more computerized and more numb. Whereas Porsche, once again, gives you a great driving experience, a sports car-like feel, even though the Macan is a family-oriented vehicle. But also when it comes to interior layout, it's still traditional, despite the fact that we have technology integrated into the interior. So you have physical buttons for the center console, which I personally love. I love this fighter jet-like cockpit, which I just think adds a specialty to the interior of this vehicle. But also we saw this layout similar to the Cayenne, which is more digitalized and touch sensitive with the buttons, which to me kind of saddens me because we're seeing a lot more technology integrated into Porsche when it comes to the interiors. But I do think that traditionalists will love the Macan S for sure. Also, when it comes to the gauge cluster, you have analog gauges and a small digital information display on the right. So you have a nice blend there. And I think that's what the Macan S and really the Macan in general does very well. You get that modern styling, but also a very traditional style as well that I think a lot of Porsche enthusiasts love. But getting back to interior refinement, comfort, and styling, I truly believe that Porsche has done an amazing job of making this vehicle very special. And I understand that as journalists and as enthusiasts, we'll get caught up in the badge on the steering wheel and the badges found throughout the vehicle. But I do believe it stands out amongst the rest. But also I think that when it comes to looking at buying a compact crossover, Porsche is going to provide an experience in many ways that a lot of other brands are just not going to do. I think when it comes to Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and BMW, they're going to wow you with technology and a luxury feel, but there's nothing special about those vehicles. There's something lacking to a certain degree, especially when it comes to driving dynamics and handling. And I think that if you're looking for the complete package, Porsche definitely has you covered there. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys next time.